Hello, my name is Tirza Agus, and I will discuss the history of some of the immigration policies in the United States up until the turn of the 20th century concerning Asian American citizens. Chinese railroad workers were some of the first Asian American immigrants to come to America. While they were working hard to build this country's first continental railroad, they were often the target of harsh discrimination and exclusion from various places of business and lodging throughout the West. The Page Act of 1875 was a discriminatory law against Asian American women. Asian women who wanted to come to America had to prove that they were not coming to become prostitutes or being sexually trafficked. This may have caused the stereotype that all Asian women are promiscuous. The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 was enacted due to pressures from non-Asian American citizens who claimed that Chinese workers were the cause of many illnesses and economic downturns on the West Coast. This fueled even more racial discrimination towards Asian Americans. The Geary Act of 1892 was passed to require all Chinese workers to register with the government and obtain a certificate of residence. This act was proof that the American government was racially biased toward Asian Americans and was the cause of many discriminatory practices.
Asian American history is one of resilience and struggle. From World War II to the early 2000s, these moments shaped how Asian communities were perceived and treated. Let's begin with Japanese internment during World War II. In World War II, over 120,000 Japanese Americans were sent to internment camps, losing their homes and rights simply because of their ancestry. This dark chapter left lasting scars. After the war, Asian Americans were still impacted by stereotypes, like the model minority myth. The model minority stereotype emerged, portraying Asians as hardworking and successful. While seemingly positive, it ignored struggles in divided communities during the Civil Rights era. However, violence against Asian Americans persisted, as seen in the case of Vincent Chin. In 1982, Vincent Chin was murdered in a hate crime fueled by economic tensions. The light sentences for his killers galvanized Asian American activism. Economic fears in the 1990s fueled another wave of anti-Asian bias. In the 1990s, Asian Americans faced workplace discrimination and stereotypes as perpetual foreigners. Advocacy groups continued pushing for equity and inclusion. Then the tragic events of 9/11 brought new challenges. After 9/11, South Asian, Muslim, and Sikh Americans experienced hate crimes and discrimination. Fear and ignorance drove these attacks, leaving lasting impacts. These stories remind us why remembering history is important. From internment camps to post-9/11 hate, Asian Americans have faced systemic discrimination while showing immense resilience. Their stories inspire us to continue the fight for justice and inclusion today.
So for this portion of the presentation, we're going to go over what happened in 2020, more specifically what happened to the Asian community during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. To start off, we need to know how and when. So COVID skyrocketed or came onto the scene in 2020. It started by the SARS-CoV-2 virus. There is a theory that it did start in China, more specifically the Hunan seafood market in Wuhan, China, where different animals such as bats or different delicacies they ate carried this virus and spread out through people. But this is just a theory because it's still hard to explain how it got such on a worldwide stage and how it affected everybody worldwide, economically, socially, and internally with themselves. So we need to understand how this affected the Asian community. The main two impacts were health impact and racist and hate crimes. Racist and hate crimes skyrocketed during this period because many people funneled all Asians into one category as the reason why COVID started. So we saw 11,500 hate incidents in the US from March 2020 to March 22, ranging from slurs to violent assaults. This caused fear and isolation within the Asian community. The health impact was also major. A study done by the National Library of Medicine asked 1,273 respondents if they had been tested for COVID, and only 39 people responded yes. That's only 3.1%. Another 46.6% stated that they didn't even have a place to get tested. And this just goes to show how medical resources weren't available for many Asian American communities. The next two biggest impacts were economic impact and cultural and social impacts. The economic impact was the biggest one. Small businesses couldn't get business because of pandemic restrictions or not getting customers. Customers were scared that they would, contract the virus or get the virus simply because these businesses were Asian owned. And a really big thing that we need to highlight is that many industries like hospitality, healthcare, and service sectors have big, Asian percentages that work in those fields. And this affected them because a lot of them lost jobs or jobs, had these racist view on them and didn't want to give them jobs. And this really affected the community bad. So, how did the Asian community respond? Well, many organizations and groups came together to give a voice that weren't violent. They were just trying to ask for policy change or to be recognized as a group of people who shouldn't be, shunned because of just who they are. That they were not the main reason, that they were just like everybody else, but, these racial views were just placed on them. Um, One main example from our own class was Module 12, where we watched an in class video about a group in San Francisco that came together to protect their Asian community, people, stores, and that they were met with violence, but they never got violent themselves, and that this was something that was needed in order to protect the community. So this goes to show that the community did respond; they were just either bashed or not heard. During the 2020 pandemic. Hi, my name is Litalian, and today we're going to be doing a little interview with an RCC student on the topic of Asian American hate and prejudice during the 2020 pandemic. Would you mind introducing yourself real quick?
Hi, I'm Natalie. This is my second year at RCC, and I'm majoring in nursing.
Gotcha. So, quick question. Are you Asian or have any Asian relatives?
Yes, I'm Asian and I'm Thai.
Gotcha. So, during the pandemic, did you ever witness or even experience racial or prejudice remarks towards you or people around you?
I've experienced it because people did make jokes, and I know they didn't mean to come off as like in a racist way, but it is racist.
Gotcha. Now, did you ever experience some that were directly racist, or did you feel more of a societal pressure when you were out and about?
I feel like I did get some looks when I was out. Like I could like feel, looks at me, but yeah.
Did it? How was your emotion? Did COVID really affect you? Did it really pressure you, or was it something that you saw more with other groups?
Like just the Asian community in general? I feel like it did affect the Asian community, but me personally, I didn't really let it affect me in that way because people were seeing Asians a certain way during that time, and I just didn't let it get to me like that because that's how they're seeing.
Though they try to say it originated in China, do you think it's wrong for a lot of people to stereotype and group all Asians into one category?
Yes, it's wrong.
Gotcha. And do you think there need to be any government changes or just societal changes or the behavior towards Asians when it comes to that topic?
I feel like both. I feel like both of them could have done something at that time to kind of like stop the hate.
Gotcha. Well, I want to thank you very much for this quick interview. Yeah, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Celebrated 41 long years of social activism, and they are going on to do so much more. they have primarily looked into law support from other activists and will be there for you if and when something happens. Now, the path forward. This is really about what the Asian community has to say. Now, places like the Status Index, they say that from witness accounts and from personal testimonies, a lot of Asian people, they feel they don't truly belong in America, they don't truly belong. But, such as like a majority of Americans are unable to name a single event or policy related to Asian Americans, and that really shows this huge divide between Asian Americans and other Americans, whether minority or not. But a lot of Asians have been taking to streets, just like mentioned in previous sections, during COVID-19, during the Stop Asian Hate era. There are still many eras to come, and a lot of Asian people are starting to speak up.
My name is Eric Shaw. My ethnicity is half white, half Korean, and my major is graphic design and digital media. Yeah, I think I definitely had more experiences with racism and xenophobia when I was younger. For instance, a lot of the times I remember kids. I understand it's not coming from a place of hatred, more of ignorance, and they need to grow up and learn. A lot of them would pull their eyes back at me. Um, Again, it's a lot of ignorance and kids just don't know. And again, ignorance, a lot of kids will just presume I'm Chinese or like Japanese or something and make a lot of stupid jokes. A lot of the slurs that I know now, I know because of other kids. I didn't learn that stuff from like people telling me like don't say something like that. It's more of kids making microaggression, or not microaggression, just straight up being racist to me, and me learning through that way and kind of just taking it as a punching bag and just thinking it's a joke. It should not be treated as such. And for racism and xenophobia most recently, it was probably only a few months ago where a coworker almost ran into something at work, and pointed to his eyes and was talking to me and said something along the lines of, "Look, I'm turning into you," as a joke. And I understand it's not coming from a place fully of hatred and more so ignorance, but it's still something that was very deeply uncomfortable and hurtful. Things I hope to see from the Asian community in the future is definitely more representation when it comes to like social media and things like that, especially kids media, because I think it's very important for kids to see themselves in like media that they're seeing. Pretty much the only people I saw myself in, especially because I'm mixed, was pretty much just like YouTubers like Markiplier. And as for just like full on Asian representation was when I was younger, just pretty much just Mulan. And then growing up, of course, I saw more, but even now I see a lack in representation when it comes to Asian people. Um, and then for other instances, what I hope for the Asian community in the future is taking just flat out racism less as a joke, because I understand that, especially a lot of Asians in the community, they see a lot of racism and jokes that are spewed at them as just things that are casually thrown around in the friend group or like maybe workplace. And I think that should stop, especially if we want to protect younger people from just repeating that cycle, because it does hurt younger people and then they just kind of grow up to deal with it, and they're not sensitive for thinking it's harmful. They're just kind of grown up to believe that they are when other people should be making them feel that way. What I hope to see in the very near future is more intersectionality between minorities, it being based in race, gender, sexuality. I just think we have a lot more in common than we think, and that we can use that to bring about a change that will benefit everyone.
At the end of the day, Asian men and women everywhere have been fighting for decades, centuries even. And at the end of the day, again, they will continue to do so until there is equality for not just them, but everyone around them. Because to Asian people, community is the biggest thing.